give their time back to others, or in ways to educate or to encourage or inspire people, especially with students. The people who are at the top of their game recognize how important it is to bring up the future. So not only do I admire you for doing that, but recognize that a lot of people do and appreciate what you and other great leaders do. Talk a little bit about how the film Art and Copy came into being, some of the things that maybe you learned out of it, and the impact that you hope it'll have. I mean, it's a pretty wonderful documentary to watch.
Yeah, well, again, the One Club is a living, breathing, evolving organization. So at that time, we were, again, there were some things we were trying to do, but one of them was trying to create the One Club in pop culture, kind of create pop culture around us and be a part of it. And it was really interesting because we came up with that idea, I think, in a board meeting and said, we were trying to think of ways to, we have this amazing Hall of Fame. I mean, just fantastic people in the Hall of Fame. George Lois and Howard Gossage, and these are just these astounding people. And we were like, it's ridiculous. Some of these people are still alive. Like, why aren't we using them? And so we just started talking, and someone said, we should make a movie. I have no idea who said it. I would love to think it was me. I have no idea who said it. I don't know who said it. But we thought, let's do that. And so we put a guy named Kirk Souter and Gregory Beauchamp, who are two just fantastic people, in charge, and said, hey, come up with some ideas for how to do that. And they came back with the idea for Art and Copy. But Greg and Kirk came up with this idea that, and the very simple idea was the kind of people behind these great pop culture and cultural movements are anonymous.
Right.
You don't know they are. You know the advertising. You know their work. What other field of art do you not know the artists? And so we said, what if we celebrate those people? And what if we... Again, that was Greg and Kirk's sort of very simple pitch. Let's celebrate those people and let's tell their story. The people behind these kind of great movements. And advertising is one of the best and worst sort of examples of an art form in the history of man. There's more of it than probably anything else.
Right.
Right? So it's amazing. And it runs off of other art. It runs off of photography. It runs off of writing. It runs off of these other things that come together to create, a piece of work. So, and that's where that came from.
Well, it was inspiring to watch it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, enjoyable. Want to jump over to Ponysaurus a little bit.
Yeah.
Your buddy Steve Sandstrom was instrumental in founding the branding of Tazo Tea in Portland, and looking at
He's astounding.
Some of the work that was done there.
Yeah.
And you've jumped in to start a brewery. Is this a start of a trend towards creative directors creating beverage companies, or what kind of moved you in that direction?
Honestly, I love beer.
Here.
And that's it. End of story. I love beer. I've come to beer late in life, actually. I didn't love beer, and I realized I hate crappy beer.
Amen.
I don't like crummy beer. And so I would have beer kind of, in my 20s, I'd drink it and go this sucks. This is not very good tasting.
Same here.
And then I tasted craft beer and I went, holy crap, what's going on there? That is the most delicious thing I've ever had. That really is what it is. So I love beer. I also love beer branding. There is a subculture of beer branding that's astounding. It's the design in beer is beautiful. I love design. I just love the look and feel and taste and smell of design. I love everything about it. It's so sublime. It can be so great. It can just change the way it can change the trajectory of your day, just by seeing a wonderful piece of design. And I've always loved design. And Steve Sandstrom, who you're referencing, is one of those inspirational guys. Everything that guy does makes me happy. When you just look at his work, it's astounding. You've seen Saint Germain, the Saint Germain kind of work that it's mind-blowingly good.
Yeah.
It's almost incomprehensibly good. I look at that stuff and just go, it's unreal. It makes me want to drink that drink,
That's good. What a good story does.
Everything Steve does is that way. It's beautiful. But so part of the idea of this company, which we have spectacularly failed at, was that we wanted to be 30 to 50% our own revenue from our own brands. And so when we first started Baldwin, we also, in a parallel, like within 2 months, tried to start a chocolate bar. And we couldn't get it off the ground. And I realized, and we also tried to start an app. We had an app that we thought was pretty interesting. And I realized, well, those aren't products or brands, they're companies. And I was like, I can't start 3 companies at the same time. I just couldn't do it. I didn't have the capital to do it, and I didn't have the brain power to do it. And so, that was the idea of the company. We're like, we're going to be our own clients, you know? And so with all of that, we also have always had that in front of us and always said that we're still going to do that. And Ponysaurus really is the first self-generated brand that we've created in-house with, you know, our partners, my other partners at Ponysaurus. I would love to say I came up with that name, but I didn't. That was Kyle Jansen, who is our brewmaster. He had the name, which is one of the things that bonded us the first time we met. I was just like, that's the best name I've ever heard in my life.
It's a great name.
It's fantastic, yeah. And it's wonderful because it weeds out, like, if you don't like that name, no problem. It's all good. Don't drink the beer. But all of that said, it happened because we wanted to create our own brands. We were trying to work with some of the breweries in town and just kind of kept hitting brick walls with it. You know, they either didn't have enough money to pay us, or they would ask us to do things, and then we'd find out someone else was doing. They'd ask somebody else to do it too, and it was just it was a mess. And I met with Summit from Lone Rider, and again, talk about an inspirational dude, like really inspired by talking to that guy. And they were just embarking on their rebranding and all this stuff, and I thought, you know, if we can't get a brewery to work with here, let's do our own. And so one of our art directors, Sean Sundholm, went, I know a guy. A good friend of mine is trying to start a brewery, and that's how I met Kyle, and that's also how I met Nick. And so I met Nick and Kyle, and we just bonded over beer. Kyle brought in beer, and it was just so good.
Good way to bond.
And it's good beer, yeah. And so that's literally how it started, very humbly. And, you know, we're just right now, the capacity is growing by 10, you know, so by 10x. We just got our CO yesterday. We're going to start brewing probably this week.
Wow.
So, in the new facility.
Wow. Who wrote the copy for the website? Was that you or Chad?
Chad and Kellen. So Chad Temples and Kellen McGarity have been the creative team for the most part on that brand, with a little sprinkling of me. But I mean, it's mostly Chad and Kellen. And a guy named Doug Kleeman did a lot of strategic sort of underpinning and work that we've tried to do. So one of the kind of basic ideas for the brand of that beer is just contemporary and traditional things clashing together, and that's where everything kind of comes from. And so the voice is something that Chad created, and it's not easy to write. It's not easy.
Well, it's elegant
he's
and
very
delightful copy.
Yeah.
And if the beer is half as good as the writing,
yeah,
then it's hell of a good beer.
I think the beer's equally as good.
Yeah,
it's good. It's good beer.
I'm looking forward to.
But we always say the beer. It's beer for when you're paying attention. It's not for chugging after you mow the lawn. It's for when it's when you want to taste a good beer.
I actually I would not drink beer at all for years.
Yeah.
It was one of the college and early on in my 20s. I just didn't drink it because I didn't like beer. And a buddy of mine did home brewing.
Yeah.
And we were over for dinner one night, and he said, well, try one of these. And my life turned around.
Yeah,
and
nice experience.
Shortly after that, we were in England working on an annual report shoot, and I was drinking English beer.
Yeah.
Well, this stuff's mighty fine. So I came home, and my buddy got me into home brewing. So for several years, and I brewed more than I drank.
Yeah.
And so Linda kind of was trying to, let's shut this down. You've got like 25 cases of beer out there, and you're not. I don't want you to drink it all.
Yeah.
But you gotta. We don't have anywhere for all the beer.
Yeah, we need a warehouse.
But you couldn't couldn't brew in 6-pack size.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it turned me around as well. So.
Well, I have to give props to my friend Mike Lemke for doing the same thing. He's the one that was into home brewing with a bunch of his other friends, and he pulled me in, and man, I couldn't get out, and I was all over it, just loved it.
Yeah,
he's the one that did it.
It turns things around. So.
Yeah, and I didn't realize I liked beer. So.
Yeah, Yeah, love good beer. I don't drink very much, but when I drink it, I want it to be good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I will say there's one of the signs, I think, of kind of the renaissance of Raleigh is the beer community.
It is.
I think the culinary community and the beer community kind of combined are bellwethers of what's happening here. It's astounding how many great beers there are here, how much great food there is here, the things that Ashley Christensen is doing.
I was about to say Ashley's doing some amazing
unbelievable
things.
Yeah, it's inspiring. I mean, it's hard to comparing what we do to what they do it doesn't feel fair. I mean, they're amazing.
Well, it's all coming together.
Yeah.
So I want to jump over to, I guess, General Counsel. What is some of the best advice that you've ever been given that you did not take?
Shut up and listen. Early on. I had to learn that sort of the hard way. I definitely was very opinionated and loud when I was younger, and have had to kind of, again, learn the hard way about that. That would probably be the number one thing that I've learned to really listen to other people. What
do you want your legacy to be? You touched on it a little bit earlier, but...
Did I say something smart? Because I don't know. I honestly don't know what I want. I think you're judged by your work. That's all I can say is my legacy will be... I just don't think in those terms. It's like whatever you do, whatever your work is, that's what's going to... that's how you're going to be judged, is what have you left, like what... David Ogilvy wrote this just amazing... Rick Boyko, who used to be the chief creative officer of Ogilvy for years and was also went to VCU for a while, and he's another inspiring figure in my life. But Rick shared this thing that David Ogilvy wrote, and I can't quote it, I can only paraphrase it, but it basically said, there's no perfect creative director. If you're overbearing, if you do all the work yourself, you'll be called a hog, and if you allow everybody else to do the work, you'll be called lazy, and all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, all that really matters is what work are you leaving behind, and what's the body of work that you have, and that's all I have. So that's the legacy. I don't think I'm going to leave a legacy. I don't think I'm important enough, and I don't think advertising is necessarily important enough to leave that kind of legacy. There's about 5 guys in the history of advertising who have a legacy, So I hope that I leave relationships. That's kind of what I value in life, or just relationships with people.
Well, that's no small thing.
Yeah. But I think that's what I value in my life, and to this day, I have people that I hired into this business who are at the highest levels that I'm still dear friends with and talk to all the time, and value their input and value their opinions, and that's what I love. I love that. I have just so many good friends, and having lived in a lot of different cities in advertising, which my wife and I always thought, well, let's use advertising as an adventure, a means for adventure to live in a lot of different places. And while I never went overseas, I was able to kind of live in a lot of different places in the country, and we just have so many friends. And advertising people are the most fun, funniest, smartest, most sarcastic. It's just such an amazing group of kind of weirdos and misfits, and just some of the smartest people you'll ever meet in your life are in advertising. And so I just feel so lucky to have been around them,
right.
And to know them.
Well, if what people say behind your back is of any significance at all, when they have good things to say, there's a lot of good stuff being said behind your back. I had a half a dozen different people, as I was talking with them, ask, have you talked with David Baldwin yet? I said, not yet, but... So it was Steve that made that connection.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure how approachable you would be with some guy going, I just want to talk with you about this stuff. But your name comes up a lot as being very relational, as well as producing good work. So that says a lot behind your back when
That's good.
People don't have to be nice necessarily. Or, I've also had people say, well, don't say this, but that didn't come up with you at all. So to your credit. Speaking of relationships, is there someone or a couple of people that you know that are outside of the spotlight that are doing something important and deserve to have a little bit of light shined on what they're doing because they're having an impact on the world? On the world is such a big, I think you're having an impact on the world if you're
affecting the people around you, right?
In their world.
Yeah,
the world can
yeah.
be this